Hello everyone. So this is fourth part of shear tests of soil. Herein two more tests that we have to discuss, and then a couple of problems. Okay, already we have done with direct shear test and then triaxial shear test. We'll go ahead. So this is called UCS test, or it is called unconfined compression test. So UCS, unconfined, not unconsolidated, right? It is unconfined. Confinement is not there. Unconfined compression strength test. So this is nothing but a triaxial shear test with a special case wherein that cell pressure, if you remember, triaxial test where we use the water to compress the soil all around through the cell pressure, that is reduced to zero. So it is a special case of triaxial shear test in which confining pressure sigma 3 is equal to 0, or that soil specimen is just held in air and only vertical deviator stress is applied till the specimen fails. The soil specimen is cylindrical in shape with the L by D length or the height of the specimen 2. Diameter is 2, generally 2 to 2.5. Generally it is taken as 2. Diameter is 38 mm, 3.8 centimeter. L is double the 3.8. Specimen is compressed at uniform rate of strain. Axial deformation and corresponding axial force are measured. Specimen is placed between two conical seatings. Okay. Here, when it is placed, it is not flat here or here also. The plates which are there between which the specimen is placed is if you exaggerate the plate will be having slightly a conical shape like that. I hope you can imagine, right? Here also this point will be a conical shape like that. Of course the cone will not be a cone to penetrate, like from the top if you look at it, it will not be like this, a very flat, hardly there will be angle, but there is some inclination, it is not perfectly flat, so that when it is compressed it will not be putting a lot of friction, it expands easily without much of friction. This surface, the top surface as well as bottom surface, will not be putting a lot of effort to expand itself. That's why it is made conical. So you will not be able to see it with what shall I say, with just a normal look. You will not be able to observe, but if you consciously see how the surfaces are, bottom and top, a very fine angle is given so that it is conical. Okay. The maximum compressive stress resisted by the specimen before failure is called unconfined compressive strength, because there is no confinement. Here there is no confinement, here there is no confinement, right? That cell pressure is 0, it is unconfined, that's why it is, right? And you go on applying compressive stress till it fails. That's why it is called unconfined compressive strength, right? So that strength at which it fails, sigma 1, is called as Q with a suffix U, that is unconfined compressive strength, and it is equal to the force applied divided by cross sectional area, right? The force whatever you have applied on the top and bottom, right? The bottom is fixed, only you are applying from the top with or through what is known as proving ring, on which you can read the force indirectly, right? So force divided by AC is a corrected area, A0 is the original or initial area of cross section. If you have taken 38 mm as the diameter, or 3.8 centimeter as the diameter. So pi d squared by 4 gives you a naught. But it is to be divided by 1 divided by epsilon. Epsilon is nothing but axial strain, that is delta L by L naught. So original length is L naught, that is 7.6 centimeters, right? When the test is actuated, they will be putting a dial gauge. How much is the deformation that will be occurring till the failure occurs? That delta L divided by L naught gives you axial strain. That is used in calculating corrected area. This is a very simple concept. The total volume at the end of the test should be equal to the total volume at the beginning of the test. That gives you this particular equation. Using this, one can calculate corrected area, and using corrected area one has to calculate Q ultimate. So this is a quick test. No drainage is allowed, so you don't wait for the water to go out from the pores, so it is undrained only. Okay. The test is conducted on saturated clay and the volume change is assumed to be 0. Means the volume in the beginning is equal to volume in the end. The shear strength parameters obtained are denoted by Cu and phi u. The test results are acceptable for soils having no friction or little friction, right? Almost phi is equal to 0, so to say, almost 0. In such cases you can conduct this kind of test. The angle made by failure plane with horizontal, that is alpha, failure plane with horizontal alpha is measured carefully. Means here when it fails, obviously there is a failure plane, that this angle has to be measured in a proper way, so that that information is used for further calculations like this. Okay, here alpha, the failure plane, right? Generally it is 45 degrees, otherwise if it is slightly more, it will be more, like 50, 52, 54, 53, like that. So that has to be measured properly. Alpha is mostly more than 45 degrees. So when it is deformed, it deforms like that, right? If it has failed exactly at 45 degrees, the Morse circle for the test will be like this, because you know how to draw the Morse circle with the basics. This phase will give you 0, 0, because there is no normal stress, no shear stress. That's why the point is in the beginning there, origin itself, and this phase has got now QU, because that is the stress at which it has failed, and there is no shear stress, that's why 0. So the point on the Morse circle will be equal to QU 0. That is that QU 0, and these two planes are mutually perpendicular, that's why this should be a diameter. So take a midpoint and draw the circle, that will be Morse circle. Now if try to find out origin of planes. Now how do you find? I got a horizontal plane, and this plane is represented by QU 0. So if I draw a line, I get here, so this itself becomes my OP, origin of planes. Now the failed plane is at an angle of 45 degrees. When I draw a line, I get to a midpoint of the circle, and then when I place a tangent to that point, that will be failure envelope with an equation tau f equal to, what is the equation? Tau f equal to simply C. There is no contribution as far as phi is concerned. Otherwise, this would have been, general equation would have been tau f equal to C plus sigma tan phi. Okay. Now because phi is 0, the value of tan phi is 0, sigma tan phi is 0. So that's why the equation remains as tau f equal to c in case of unconfined compression strength test. Generally this is. Otherwise there may be slightly more angle, alpha may be a bit more. In such cases you can just see here, maybe it has failed there, right? Now that will be making an angle of phi. This will be nearly 0 or maybe 5 degrees 10 degrees in that range, right? With that, and alpha is over here, so because of that alpha and you know that this angle, if it is phi, the angle here will be 90 minus phi, 90 minus 5. That's why 180 for this triangle, 180 minus 2 alpha should be equal to this angle 90 minus 5. If you calculate, you will get alpha equal to 45 plus 5 by 2. That is the alpha, the angle of failure plane. If it is equated to 45 plus 5 by 2, you will directly know what is angle of internal friction phi. By chance, if it is 45 degrees, phi is 0. If it is bit more, then you will be getting some value for phi, right? And c is anyway automatically comes from the graph itself as an intercept on y-axis. Okay, here there is an application, one numerical problem I have solved for you. A cylindrical specimen of saturated soil fails at an axial stress of 180 kilonewton per meter square. So 180 kilonewton per meter square is nothing but now QU. Directly the stress is given. If load is given, you have to divide by area, but here directly the stress at failure is given in an unconfined compression test. So it is a UCS test. The failure plane makes an angle of 54 degrees. This is alpha with horizontal. Calculate the shear strength parameters of the soil. So very straightforward problem. If I draw the sketch, sigma 3 is 0, sigma 1 is 180. So straight away alpha is 45 plus 5 by 2, 54 is given. If I calculate, phi becomes 54 minus 45, 9 into 2, 18 degrees. Now through this I can calculate Ka and root Ka. Root Ka is tan of 45 minus 5 by 2. K is tan squared 45 minus 5 by 2. I hope you remember those expressions, otherwise I'll just write them. Ka is nothing but 1 minus sin phi divided by 1 plus sin phi, or it is tan of 45 minus 5 by 2. It is only 5 by 2, not 45 by 2, right? So this is 5 by 2 has to be minused from 45, and if you write tan squared, then it will be K. If it is root K, it is only tan 45 minus 5 by 2. So anyway, you will get the value of K, and then use this equation sigma 3 equal to sigma 1 K minus 2C root K, in which K is already known. Sigma 3 is 0, sigma 1 is 180. If I substitute and simplify, I get C as 65.39 kilonewton per meter square. That is C. So this is how analytically one can solve without drawing a graph. But if you draw the graph, more circle, then this plane, as I told you, vertical plane is 0 0, horizontal plane is 180 0. Okay, here I have drawn 0 180 0. So I draw a circle, then failure plane, origin of planes. If I draw a line parallel to horizontal through 180 0, I get point over here which is OP. So I can write this particular point as OP, origin of planes. The angle of failure plane is 54 degrees. So I draw a line at an angle of 54. There it intersects. So there I draw a radial line and a line perpendicular to that is inserted so that it becomes tangential. Then I measure this angle phi, which is 18 degrees. How much was ours? Same, 18 degrees. Right? This is angle phi. And then intercept and y-axis gives you the shear cohesion. So it is 65.39 kilonewton per meter square, the same units. So here it is 65.39. So that's how you can solve it, maybe graphical way by drawing the Mohr circle. It is easy if you are well versed with your geometry. Otherwise, analytically you should be able to solve in this manner, right? Whichever method is fine unless they mention anything over here. If they say that you have to solve it by graphical method, you have to go for Mohr circle. If they don't mention anything, you are left with both the options open. Okay, there is one more. In an unconfined compression test on soil sample, 100 mm long and 50 mm in diameter falls under a load of, it should have been fails under actually. How can it fall, right? So fails under a load of 150 Newton at 10% strain. Epsilon is given, right? Load at the failure is given. Cross-sectional diameter is given. The failure plane makes an angle of 50 degrees with horizontal. Alpha is given. Determine the shear strength parameters. Okay. Here cross-sectional area is pi 5 squared by 4. I have put it in centimeters. 50 millimeters is 5 squared by 4, that is 19.63 centimeters square. Corrected area, corrected cross-sectional area, AC is given by A divided by 1 minus epsilon. So 19.63 A naught or A original divided by 1 minus epsilon, 10% strain, so 0.1. It comes out to be 21.82 centimeters square as the corrected area. Now UCS, unconfined compression strength, will be QU divided by ultimate load divided by area. Load is 150 Newton at which it has failed. 150 Newton divided by 21.82 centimeters square gives you 6.875 Newton per centimeter square as the shear strength. But if you want to convert that into kilonewton per meter square, you have to divide Newton by 1000 and divide every centimeter by 100. So in the numerator you get 100 into 100, in the denominator you will be getting 1000. That's why you will end up with 68.75 kilonewton per meter square, or it is also called kilopascals, 68.75. Okay, now further it is same as earlier problem. Because of that I have just given this, I have not solved it fully, but procedure to be used is exactly the same. That's why I have put a line there. It is not the same, but it is similar. You have to use same equation, alpha equal to 45 plus pi by 2, alpha is 50, you get some phi, calculate Ka, use that in this equation and find out C. So these are the steps to be followed in this problem. I think you'll be able to solve it. Next, based on drainage conditions, the type of shear tests. Okay, there are classification of shear tests, and classification is very simple to remember. You can just see here the names are very interesting. UU test, CU test and CD test. So to simulate how this classification is, to simulate actual conditions of the field, right? 3 types of shear tests are conducted in laboratory, and they are UU test. Why it is called UU test? The long form for that is unconsolidated undrained test. Unconsolidated undrained. CU test is consolidated but undrained test, and CD will be consolidated drained test, or it is simply called drain test, whereas UU test is simply called as quick test. Both the nomenclatures are very widely used. That's why you should know. UU test, or it is simply called undrained test, is a quick test, whereas CD test is a very slow test, right? It takes a lot of time. You have to allow the water to pass out, and so on. Okay, there. I think next slide. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Here, essentially, there are two stages in any shear test. Note this particular part. In any shear test, there are two stages, it is said. First, application of normal stress, and then there is a shear stress applied till the failure. Okay. Now, what is stage 1? That is normal stress application. In direct shear test, first normal stress is applied, if you remember that. Similarly, in triaxial shear test, cell pressure is applied. So parallel thing in triaxial test is cell pressure, whereas in direct shear test there is a vertical stress applied. Okay. In stage 2, in direct shear test, the shear strain is given. In direct shear test, the shear strain is given and shear resistance is observed or measured, and maximum shear resistance at failure is noted down. That is tau f, right, or tau at a particular value of sigma. Now, in case of triaxial shear test, the axial stress gradually increased till the soil fails, and that is called, we have called it as delta sigma or deviator stress. Right. Anyway, we'll see further. So this is direct shear test, wherein you apply vertical stress and hold it at that value, go on applying this strain, and resistance offered at this point is measured. So what you get here is, for one value of sigma, you will be getting one particular value of tau. And if you call it as sigma 1 applied, you will be getting tau 1. And if you reassemble the soil specimen, or for next specimen, you apply sigma 2, maybe increased value or decreased value of normal stress. Again, you do the strain, the resistance offered is measured, and if you note down the stress at failure, that will identify it as tau 2. For sigma 2, tau 2 is there. Like that, the data goes on. Right. Now, in this case, the first stage, when you apply normal stress, right, if the soil is having some moisture in it, the water is squeezed, right, it tries to go out through these porous stones and then holes provided, right. If you allow it to go out, then that is allowing the soil to, we say, consolidate, right. Then afterwards, whether you allow it to consolidate or not, there is condition, and then afterwards you give shear. Okay. So in case of triaxial shear test also, the soil specimen is kept here. You know that this is soil specimen. Now, when you apply the water pressure, right, it is all normal stress only. Everywhere there is normal stress, right. When you apply normal stress, if the soil is wet, there is a chance that it will ooze out the water or allow the water to pass out. There is an arrangement. You may allow the water to pass out or you may close it, right. If you allow the water to go out, we say it as consolidate, right. Otherwise, you don't consolidate, and then afterwards you apply a vertical extra delta sigma till the failure occurs. That is what is written here, right? In triaxial test, the axial stress gradually increases till the soil fails. Okay, there are two stages you have identified. Okay, now based on drainage conditions, there are types of shear tests. uh, First one, UU test. I have told you UU, CU and CD test. There are three. Now what is done in UU test, we'll see. During both these stages, in the sense, whatever first stage, normal stress application, and then second stage, shear stress application, right? In both these stages, water is not allowed to drain. So it is undrained and unconsolidated. Not much time is taken for the test, hence it is referred to as quick test. The resulting shear strength parameters are undrained cohesion, undrained angle of internal friction, phi with a suffix u. That is undrained shear strength parameters. For saturated clays under undrained condition, phi u is equal to 0, hence tau f is equal to cu. This you have seen in UCS test, unconfined compression strength. We assume that the clay is fully saturated and undrained condition is there, that's why phi u is 0 and tau f is equal to cu. Okay, now next, CU test. So what is the long form? It is consolidated undrained test. Consolidated means what? When you apply first normal stress, you allow the water to go out, right? During stage 1, after application of stresses, the pore water pressure builds up. Yeah, when you apply this water pressure, sigma 3 all around, cell pressure, or in direct shear test, normal stress is applied, there will be building up of pore water pressure, because whatever water that is present inside the pores will be developing some kind of pressure, because externally we are applying a pressure over here, so that builds some pressure here. Because of the pressure development, there is possibility that water tries to go out. You have to allow it. Now sufficient time is given so that the water drains out and pore pressure, that is pore water pressure, becomes 0. Means all the pressure that is developed inside the pore water has to become 0. That is, soil gets fully consolidated. We say for that, when pore water pressure becomes 0, we say that it is fully consolidated. C is done. Now during the stage 2, water is not allowed. Now you close the valve for this. Whatever water is going out from the specimen, that you close it, right? Now till the soil fails. Now you go on applying this delta sigma, and during application of delta sigma, you should not allow the water to go out. That is undrained condition. So consolidated but undrained test. So the resulting soil parameters, shear strength parameters are C with the suffix Cu and phi with the suffix Cu, means consolidated undrained cohesion, consolidated undrained angle of internal friction, or taking total stresses, it will be like this. If you take effective stresses, it will be C dashed and phi dashed. Okay. The third one, CD test. So here it is consolidated drained test. Means in both the stages you have to allow the water to pass out. In both the stages, sufficient time is given so that no pore water pressure is allowed to build up at any time. Means you have to allow the water to just pass out. You apply little of water pressure here and see that the pressure developed inside the pore water is reduced to 0. You will be having a measuring device, so that how much is the pressure developed will be there. So that has to become 0, and then afterwards give next increment. The increment has to be slow, so that you will not be allowing any building up of pressure inside the water that is present in the soil, right? And it takes a lot of time. That's why it is a slow test, takes good amount of time, and the resulting shear strength parameters are C dashed and phi dashed, that is effective cohesion and effective angle of internal friction, right? Okay, next is vane shear test. There is one more. We have done direct shear, we have done triaxial, a special case of triaxial, unconfined compression strength test, UCS. Then the last one, vane shear test. This can be field test, or it can be a lab test. In lab, very small size equipment would be there, vanes would be there, but when you go out on the field, slightly larger vanes would be used. But direct shear test, triaxial and unconfined compression strength tests are purely lab procedures. You don't have any way that you can conduct it directly on the field. But vane shear test is the one which can be conducted on the field also, if you have got an equipment which can be used there on the field, right? So it is a quick test used to determine undrained shear strength of the soil, cohesive soil. The equipment consists of steel plates welded perpendicular to each other at the end of steel rod. Through this rod, rotation can be applied and the torque can be measured. Calibrated torsion spring is attached to the top of the torque rod. Okay, when you see the arrangement of vanes and a rod, etc., you will be coming to know about everything here, right? I think I'll show you and come back. Okay, here there is a rod and two plates are perpendicularly welded, right? In actual equipment there will be a spring here, and you go on giving the torque, that spring will be able to measure, and at what point this fails will be noted down. The diameter of the vanes is D, the height of the vanes is H. So exactly from the front view how it looks is like this, exactly from the top how it looks is like this, right? Like that. So diameter is D, then H is the height. So when you try to rotate, the shearing occurs along cylindrical surface, also on the circular surface top, circular surface bottom. There are three surfaces which will be offering resistance and three surfaces will be failing. Okay, we'll read it afterwards. Now vane shear test can be conducted in the lab and also in the field. To conduct the test, the vanes, that is steel plates of equipment, are gently pushed into the soil and the torque rod is rotated at uniform rate, that is 1 degree per minute, that is the rate at which you have to rotate. The torque T corresponding to the angle of rotation theta at regular intervals are noted down. Now T versus theta is plotted, from which tau f, the torque at failure, can be found, and that will be nothing but shear strength in the soil. Analytically, slightly a different procedure is there, we'll see that. Now, analytical proof for the shear strength, tau f is shear strength. So here if I have vanes having height h, height of the vanes, d the diameter of the equipment, tau f, tau with the suffix f, here you have tau f, tau f, tau f, tau f, tau f. Tau f is shear strength of the soil. Assuming the vanes are pushed into the ground so that resistance is offered by cylindrical surface as well as both top and bottom circular faces. So it is inside the soil. Actually how it is done is there will be a container in which the soil will be fully filled, and this particular equipment is inserted inside, so that this goes maybe up to some depth like that, and then this is rotated. When you rotate, it tries to shear the cylindrical surface on the periphery, also it will be shearing the circular surface, and the resistance offered will be maximum at this point because displacement is maximum here, right? As far as cylindrical surface is concerned, full value of tau f acts all along the cylindrical surface. All along the cylindrical surface there will be tau f a resistance, whereas if you take circular surface on the top, right, the maximum resistance will be at this point, and then as you go inside you can just see here, here the motion is 0, here the motion is maximum, full value of tau f comes into action, here it is 0, so it is a straight line variation. The same variation is shown here. So on the circular surface there will be tau f into 0, plus 0 divided by 2, average shear stress acts, not full value of tau f. But as far as cylindrical surface is concerned, if you imagine cylindrical surface, all along the cylindrical surface there will be failure, and shear resistance will be with a full value of tau f. Okay, the same thing is put here. Resistant torque becomes because of cylindrical surface. So torque offered because of cylindrical surface is called as T1, and resisting torque because of one circular surface, maybe the top, T2. There are two circular surfaces, one on the top, one on the bottom. Now how the expression is written, just see. For cylindrical surface, what is the area of the surface, cylindrical surface? You know that it is pi d into h, right? Pi d is peripheral length multiplied by h gives you external cylindrical surface. Pi dh is the cylindrical surface area multiplied by tau f, shear resistance, gives you the force, and this force acts at a distance of d by 2. So that gives you area into stress gives you the force into distance gives you the torque. So T1, which is pi d squared h by 2 into tau f, is the torque resisted by cylindrical surface. Now if you come to circular surface, now look at this, pi d squared by 4 is the circular area. The stress acting is average stress tau f by 2, so that becomes a force, and this force acts at, the resultant acts at 2/3, because this way if you look at it is radius, and resultant will be at 2/3 of a radius, so that's why it is 2/3 of d by 2. Now T2 will be by t cube by pi d cube by 24 into tau f. This is one circular surface. We have two circular surfaces, one at the top and one at the bottom. So total torque applied at the failure, that is if I measure it here while applying, is equal to T1 plus 2 times T2. So external torque applied, which I will be having a record, is equal to pi d squared h into tau f by 2, that one, plus pi d cube by 24 into tau f into 2. If you simplify, you get an expression like this, pi d squared tau f, I can take it common, into h by 2 plus d by 12. This can be an expression, or this can be t equal to pi d squared by 2 tau f into bracket h plus d by 6. Any one of these forms is fine to solve the problems. So this is how Vane shear test can be conducted and analyzed. We'll solve some numerical problems on this also. Okay. A vane of 10 centimeter long. So h is given. The formula to be used is any of these expressions. So h is given 10 centimeter. The diameter is given 8 centimeter in diameter, was pressed into soft clay at the bottom of a borehole. Torque was applied and gradually increased to 40 Newton meter when the failure took place. So this torque is given, right? So diameter is already known. What is left in the equation? The tau f. So this is nothing but shear strength, right? So substitute everything and find out what is known as tau f. Let us say 1 is known. Now subsequently the vane rotated rapidly so as to completely remold the soil, and after some time, right, the remolded soil was sheared at the torque of 15 Newton. Means once again this torque has become 15. All the dimensions h and d remain the same. You end up with a different value of tau f. We call it as remolded sample shear strength, whereas this is undisturbed soil sample, undisturbed soil strength. Now if you take the ratio tau f by tau 1, what do you call it as? If you remember, it is called sensitivity. The strength, the shear strength, right, the strength without any disturbance divided by strength after remodeling is known as sensitivity. So if you calculate this ratio comes out to be something like 2.66 or 667. You please calculate all these values, calculate tau f1, tau f2. It is easy. Only thing is you have to take care that they have given here 40 Newton meter, whereas this is in centimeter. You have to either convert them into meters or you convert this into centimeter, but you have to keep a harmony in the units for solving the problem, and then solve the problem. Okay. The results of shear box test are as shown in figure. This is the next problem. Determine the parameters. Now first part is determine the parameters. Would the failure occur on the plane with the soil mass when the shear stress is 122 kilonewton per meter square? There should have been per, and normal stress is 246 kilonewton per meter square. So this is slightly tricky. The first part is quite simple. There are values. Normal stress, that is sigma, is given. This is sigma. The shear stress is given, tau. So if you plot on a graph sigma and tau and take scale on both the axes, same scale, right? Normal stress 50, 36, 100, that is 80, 200, that is 154, 300, some value. So you draw a straight line. The intercept on y-axis gives you C. You have to measure that C. The angle made with horizontal, this angle is known as phi. If you take some scale and draw it on the graph, you'll be able to do all this. Very simple, right? Now what is in the next part is, would the failure occur on the plane within the soil mass when the shear stress is 122 and a normal stress is 246? What you should do is, if you have drawn the graph already, normal stress you go there, 246 you go, so 246, right? And then climb up and see the value there, right? If this value is equal to 122, then it is about to fail condition. If the 122 is below, then it is safe, it hasn't failed. And if 122 is above, such a case never exists, because When you have applied 246, the moment some value there it comes, it has failed. You will not be having a chance to apply that 122 at all, right? But if that 122 is below, then it is a safe condition. The failure will not be feared of, right? Would the failure occur? No. If it is below this line, the failure will not occur. If the point is above this line, then the failure occurs. If it is on the line and it is about to fail, impending motion we say, right? That way the failure is about to happen. Okay. So with this, I think we'll close the shear strength chapter. Fine. Thank you.